Has the market changed its mind about what the Fed may do next?
We have got to get inflation behind us. I wish there were a painless way to do that. There isn't.
I think this is a two-part policy mistake of historic proportion.
I think the odds of a recession in 2023 are very high.
I think you're Hello,
welcome. I'm Christopher Chrystal, and this is Finance to Stockholm. Today is the 30th, Wednesday, November 2022, and the news in Sweden is mostly focused on what's happening in the government, and remember, this is a government that wasn't put in place until officially was, I think, October 17th. So it's not even been 100 days, but there's a lot of criticism, pressure on them to very much against the parties involved. They're generally Social Democrats who are the authors. So there's a little bit of bias in the articles, but there's no dodging that they haven't really delivered on their promises. One of the promises was about the electricity support and how the consumers who paid high prices this past year would be receiving a refund, and there's 55 billion Swedish crowns that's sitting in an account waiting to be paid out. And that money, announced today by our Minister of Energy, Ebba Busch, said would start in February, and it would apply mainly to the people in southern Sweden. And the problem with that is that in northern Sweden, they're generally paying the same amount of electricity prices as we are down here in the south. Some of that has to do with winter, as it should, and maybe wind not blowing as it should for their models. And so the power prices have gone up. We also have this entity called Nordpolen, which sits in England and is composed of Scandinavian people from Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, and I think there might be some from the Baltics as well. And it does a futures trading price based on the European prices for natural gas and the cost for electricity. I don't have the exact model, but you can go to their page to figure out more. So the money that should be dispersed back to the Swedish taxpayer will not happen until February of next year. So the support that the voters voted in for is not happening by November 1st, which is long past, as promised. And the other part to this is that the gas prices of either diesel or gasoline have not been lowered by more than, say, 14 öre. So 14 pennies, you could say, out of 100 Swedish crowns. The result is a lot of dissatisfaction. There's a press poll release coming out saying how Swedish Democrats have gained in popularity, and that the Swedish Democrats and the Moderaterna have dropped slightly in popularity. I would question all of these polls, but certainly there is a little bit of frustration being felt by the Swedish voter. And there's a little bit of frustration being felt as a result of the Swedish government not really announcing what they're doing to change the problems that they were campaigning on. So the Swedish society and the peaceful and calmness of Sweden has yet to be addressed. There was supposed to be more police hired. So far, the biggest move that they've made is that police will now have video cameras. That was instituted yesterday. So they'll walk around with video cameras, so the interaction between police and the citizens will be seen. But there's still no sign on how many police will be hired or when and where they'll be put. And so that's a disappointment. And then you also have the amount of school shootings. Now that's an issue in the US, but the problem here in Sweden is the amount of shootings nearby to a school. So gangs are operating with impunity, and they don't care where they are in the society. They're killing each other or shooting at each other. And many of these bullets are hitting, especially in the north, different schools are being done by schools. And this issue needs to be addressed and is not being addressed. So there's a real frustration there. And then you have the immigration issue. There's the question of how many should be let in. The amount was lowered down to, I believe, 900. and they're not taking the 5,000. And then you have individuals who are here on asylum and here on application committing crimes, and they're not receiving any real penalties for this, nor are they being extradited to their home country, which was something that was promised. And so if you go to the web pages and you look at the rhetoric that they're putting out, there's no change in what they're saying from the political parties like the Sverigedemokraterna or the Moderaterna, that they're still going to work for a safer, cleaner Sweden, and that they're all going to approach the environment with safety. But there's nothing being done to really show that this is going to occur. And you don't have the environment for the business to really grow. So taxes are high, inflation rates are high. You see, and in that you have the daily food prices being a large component, as well as the electricity prices. And then you see the interest rates going up. You saw in Sweden that rental house prices, rental unit prices went up by 10%. That dramatically impacted a lot of people in Sweden, because if they're in a bostadsförening, or which is similar to a condo enterprise, they had increases. If you're in a state-held, government-controlled rental unit, those also saw increases. So the inflation effect is really being felt by the consumer, and the energy cost is really going to draw down on the economy. We're effectively in a recession, whether people are going to admit it or not. And so the question is, what's going to happen, and how will this be impacted in Sweden? The technology side, of course, the debate with Twitter and what some are calling the tech MAGA, meaning Microsoft, Apple, Google, and the other Amazon, are really in control of the internet. And how this would affect Sweden, which has been a birthplace for a lot of strong tech companies like Spotify, remains to be seen. But if you don't have the energy to produce, and you're charging high taxes, you make yourself less favorable. And that's why when companies like Spotify started, they did start in Sweden. They do hold operations in Sweden, but they did a lot of their operations in the UK to avoid a lot of the Swedish tax. So we'll see how this develops further. But the Swedish business and climate environment is not very strong. Obviously, the banks continue to do well because they're beneficiaries of the high interest. But if you see a lot of sales and forced people out of their houses, you will see a drop in the bank values, and maybe we might go into a bad bank scenario. That's the doomsday forecast that's coming out from many. So what the Riksbank will do next, it's unknown. If they will continue to raise, or maybe they'll even drop rates. But you have to see some sort of change here to get things going. And so right now, the Swedish economy is not looking very good. And I would still, it's premature to start investing, although you do have companies like Northvolt saying that they're going to do Volvo cars, and that there are good prognosis for Volvo car targets to produce electric vehicles. We don't see the power grid available to power all of those cars. So we'll wait and see. But remember, there's always money to be made, whether you're going long or you're going short, which this market seems to favor. If you're in for the long term, which maybe some people have to be because of they're underwater now, or if you're in for the short term and you're looking for the trade, there's always money to be made in the market. And we'll wish you a good day and happy investing. Thank you.